There's a remarkable hallmark of trafficking survivors that I've experienced in my practice, and that is, for them, the case is not about the money. Money is important. It's important. We found that it's important to financial stability. It's important to recompense. Money is the way that the civil system compensates for harms done, but it's not the principal focus of the plaintiffs that I've encountered. Their focus tends to be on being heard. They want their stories told. They want acknowledgement that this thing happened to them. They want acknowledgement that they were harmed and that harm matters. And they want accountability. And I'll say, even for the people that we cannot help for a number of reasons, right? Maybe their claims are outside of the statute of limitations. There may be other barriers to bringing legal claims. Even just sitting down with people and just letting them tell you what happened, uninterrupted, without judgment, just listening. Sometimes that's all we can do. But I have heard back from those that I've spoken to that mattered to them. Thank you for just listening, is what they said. I got involved in human trafficking 10 or 15 years into my litigation practice. I'd always been tied to doing social justice work in my legal practice, but encountered human trafficking as a practice in, I would say, maybe about 2012, 2013. On a more personal level, I am African American, and slavery is not the totality of our history by any means, but it has been an impactful part of our history. And I grew up learning about the fight for freedom and the sacrifices that people made in that fight for freedom. The fight that we have today doesn't exactly look like what was experienced by my people earlier, but it is nonetheless a fight for freedom. And so in some ways, I feel like it's a continuation of the fight that my ancestors struggled with before my time. I think litigators, especially litigators who have been in practice for a very long time, when they are brought a case, particularly one that is compelling, and that has a human element where something has been done, there's been some harm, you begin to think instinctively, there's got to be a way to address this. There's got to be something in our body of laws to address this. Sometimes it is very evident what that thing is. There's a clear legal theory that applies, a conventional legal theory, but sometimes there's not. But the value of the center cannot be overstated. The reason being is that, first, civil litigation, civil human trafficking litigation is fairly new, relatively new in the law, at least as we talk about it today. It is. The cases are still, the statutes, the case law is still being very developed. There are things that are happening all over the country. It's very decentralized work. What I'm doing in Michigan is not necessarily known by practitioners in, say, Arizona and Texas, but we're still being affected by each other's work because the cases are looking outside of our jurisdictions. They're looking to see how other states and other districts and appellate courts have decided these issues. What the center does is it centralizes information, it centralizes resources, the data, the research, the legal briefs. It also creates connections between practitioners and advocates. The monthly calls, civil litigation calls between practitioners is what essentially connects us so that we understand collectively what is happening everywhere. had to develop a bit of a philosophy in terms of continuing with these cases, because it feels sometimes like there is just so much bad in the world. It just feels like there's so much harm and there's so much evil and there's so much wrongdoing that there's just not enough good to cover it. And so sometimes in practice, it feels like we're taking these cases, we're getting good outcomes, we're doing good things, but it's like pouring a cup of water on a forest fire. It's hard to see the impact. There's always something to take its place, and that can be discouraging. And so over the last 5-10 years or so, I've really wrestled with that and have had to lean into my belief, despite my feelings and despite what I see, my belief that there is enough good, and that the individual acts of kindness and individual acts of justice and mercy and love do in the aggregate make a difference, even if I can't immediately see it. In combating something as vast as human trafficking, which literally has a global scale, it's important to translate your interest and your empathy and your desire to help into action. Find your place in the fight. No place is too small. No action is too little. All of it matters. And whether your place in the fight is financial, or your place in the fight is legal advocacy, or your place in the fight is social services or providing direct care and support, all of it matters. And in the aggregate, it will make an impact.